Hello and welcome to Diegetic Advancement. I'm Riley, and on this episode let's jump back into that old format. I'll mostly be talking about some wargaming in this post, as that's what's been consuming my time. We'll cover some bold action, a little bit of Forstgrave, and a newish game called HOBGOBLIN. But don't fret, there will be some RPG talk. First up, RPG theory. So I've recently moved my group from a Shadowdark game to Dolmenwood. I had been waiting for physical products for Dolmenwood before diving in, but I got the exciting news that we're expecting our second child in April, so that timeline doesn't work out. I also found that Shadowdark lacked enough meat on the bone, which added to the burden of actually running it. Mechanically, the game was fine. It had all the rules and more that I'd want to be able to adjudicate situations that came up in play. But is that enough to make a game complete? I'll likely revisit this topic of completeness, but I'm of the opinion that an RPG isn't complete unless it has rules for GM prep. Now, of course, I can just grab this from another RPG or product, but why should I have to? Now, I don't want to bash on Shadowdark because it's a really fun game, beautifully made, with a lot of effort that's gone into it. It's a great community, and it can definitely run a good game. But, as an example, there aren't really rules for creating a dungeon adventure, which is the quintessential adventure type and certainly the focus of the game. And sure, I've got enough experience with similar games to be able to draw a map, place some monsters, traps, and treasures, create a wandering encounter table. But is that how Shadowdark is meant to be played? Am I creating appropriate challenges, placing enough treasure? The characters and XP advancement are very different to BX, which my ideas would be coming from, so I think not. What do you think about RPG completeness? Do you need rules to create scenarios for the game to be complete? What else does it need beyond resolution mechanics and character creation? Does it need a setting? I'd love to hear what you think, and details for contacting me are down below. Now onto a review. HOBGOBLIN. I've been listening to some wargaming podcasts as I go about hobbying, and I've been getting inundated with game recommendations, which isn't great for the wallet. One such game that piqued my interest is HOBGOBLIN from Mike Hutchinson, the creator of Gaslands, another game I want to pick up at some point, probably in my next order from Osprey. This game was recently kickstarted, and according to their website, everything is just being shipped now. So I imagine it might be a little bit difficult to get your hands on this side of Christmas. However, there is a free quick start available, which annoyingly you have to go through their checkout process rather than just being able to get a download. If the following short review does sound interesting though, you can check it out on their website, and the links for that will be in the show notes. First, a quote from their marketing. HOBGOBLIN is a game of brutal, old-school fantasy battles for people who want to put all their miniatures out on the table in sweeping battle lines and see them die in glorious battle, without needing to set aside a whole day to play. That's certainly an interesting premise for those of us who are time poor, so let's take a look. Army creation. HOBGOBLIN is miniature agnostic, so to build your army, you create units of different footprints, either wide, narrow, or horde, which determines what base size a unit will have, and unit types, a list of generic types like light infantry, chariot, or monster. These determine what statistics the unit will have and are limited by different footprints. Unit types also provide keywords like tough, which acts like extra hit points. Finally, you can pay to add extra keywords. Playing the game. The way the game is played should be fairly familiar to anyone with some experience in war games. You run through the phases, one player acting first in each. Because this game markets itself as fast and brutal, let's take a closer look at actually what makes it that way. Firstly, combat seems deadly. In melee, you're rolling 10d6, looking for target numbers in the 2 to 6 range, which is determined by the attacking unit type versus the defending unit type. For example, a light infantry requires a 5 or more to hit heavy infantry. With a target of 6+ being pretty rare, you should be dealing a good chunk of damage. For ranged combat, you only throw 5d6, and you can't score additional hits once a target has 5 hits accumulated. 10 hits effectively kills the unit, so you must get into melee to kill a unit. The second mechanic which encourages this is Doom and the Doom phase. Each hit adds 1 Doom to a unit, and once a unit has 10 Doom, it becomes broken. Then during the Doom phase, which is the final phase of a turn, each friendly unit within 8 inches of a broken unit gains 1 Doom, which can cause them to become broken and then chain this effect. Then all broken units are removed. You can imagine some devastating turns where multiple units end up running because of a single unit becoming broken. All is not lost though. you do gain some meta currency, which isn't explained in the kickstart, once units are removed. Lastly is the table setup. The minimum table size is fairly small in comparison to typical games at 4 foot by 3 foot, and then the no man's land is only 16 inches wide. In my experience, at least 24 inches is typical. Considering the movement rates of the units, with most being above 8, you can expect to get stuck in on the first, if not the second turn. The stated goal of the designer was to skip the step of most wargames of setting up your position for the first turn or two. I'm not really sure if this achieves that. There's every chance that you don't end up in combat until turn 2. I wonder if they could have been more bold here and had some sort of random deployment, like scattering dice across a board and deploying units where the dice fell. This way some units might already be in combat. On the blog I posted a quick picture that I drew in paint to kind of demonstrate this, but I'll give a more thorough description for the audio podcast. What you do is you split the board up into a number of sections. The way that I did it in the example was to split the board into quadrants, and then for each of those 4 quadrants, split them again. So you end up with 16 different areas. Then each player takes a number of dice equal to the number of units they have, and they roll them across that sheet. It'd be useful to have some sort of borders so that they don't roll off and can bounce around a bit, like a drop table in like Black Hack or other games that use that mechanic. Then, following the initiative system for the game, or just you go, I go, each player can take one of their dice and place a unit in the corresponding quadrant on the actual game board. 2 units, 2 dice that are right next to each other, those units might end up straight in combat. You might end up with battles where everything is kind of far apart, or one unit is kind of surrounded. I think, one, you're going to get dropped into very dynamic, exciting scenarios, and it's going to create narrative moments. It's not obviously balanced. You're going to lose a lot of games, potentially, just from a bad dice roll at the start of the game. But I think that could be exciting. Maybe I'll record a video of me playing something like that in the future. Okay, now onto the quest to play more and play better. I'm going to divide this into 2 sections from now on: hobby updates and gaming updates. Gaming being role-playing games. So first up, hobby updates. I recently went to an awesome and very fun bolt action event. It was centered around beginners, and as my 3rd time ever playing, I found it was a really great introduction. There was lots of support from the event organizers and my opponents, and I'll likely talk about bolt action more in future posts as I get ready for another event in March, focusing on the early war period. Luckily, the force I built for this event was already based on a typical force organization for early war, so not much will need to change, but it is at a higher point count, so I'll be able to add some more fun toys to my list. Because this entire post is already running along, I'll make a separate post to talk more about the force I took and the one I plan to take in March, but I'll leave you with a picture of the force. That is on the blog. Go check it out if you're interested. Next up on the painting block, though, is a set of miniatures from North Star Miniatures for some Forstgrave. I'm looking to build 2 generic forces so that I can play with people without having to get them to invest, which is one of the harder things about getting into war games, is finding people to play with. There are also some nice generic fantasy miniatures, so they'll get use in some other games. I'll need to look at building a small set of terrain to play as well, so maybe check back in after Christmas for some updates on how I'm going there. Then gaming updates. What have I been playing? Well, I'm still in 2 play-by-post games as a player. One is Traveller, and another is BX-ish in Barrow-Maze. Traveller has been fun. It's my first time playing. At the moment, we're battling a faulty ship, which has given us an unhealthy amount of radiation poisoning on our way to an old pirate's vault. In Barrow-Maze, we've been teleported deep into the dungeon, surrounded by undead cultists, and are very much lost. I'm beginning to fear we might never actually emerge. Interestingly, I'm able to get these really short bursts of deep immersion in dungeon crawling versus via play-by-post. I'm feeling deep dread and anxiety when I'm writing my post to find a way out of Barrow-Maze, and I definitely feel lost and helpless as my character. It's pretty awesome. I don't know if I've had that experience as strongly at the table. In another play-by-post I'd played a long while ago, I got split from the party, had lost my light, and I was trying to navigate dark corridors back to where I thought the party would be. Whilst I heard strange sounds in the dark, this again was deeply immersive. I felt genuine fear as my character when the corridor opened up into a vast chamber. I've also been playing in a West Marches-ish Morkborg game. It's a published setting with a set goal, and we're kind of nearing the end, which will likely wrap up before the end of the year if we can get enough sessions in. I'm not totally sold on Morkborg or the setting for this mid-length play. This is a pretty narrow scope of experience, so I don't want to judge it just off this. Morkborg as itself has been quite fun, and definitely gone past grim dark and horrible into humorous, and it's just been a fun game to play in. Lastly, I'm 3 sessions into Dolmenwood with my regular group. So far, no experience has been earned, but they're right out front of Winter's Daughter, so hopefully we get some progress in the next session. Having said that, Dolmenwood is a really amazing product. I've really enjoyed the system as sort of a BX plus. There's lots of nice quality of life changes, new setting specific mechanics and systems, and a ton of setting content. Just going on page count, I think there are 200 key hexes, each with a page. Couldn't be bothered actually counting the hexes, but so you do need to do some prep, but there's just heaps to draw inspiration from. I think you could get years of play from this book. Once the characters see some action, I'll likely write up some session reports to share. There's been a lot of careful play and exploration, and we only play 2-ish hour sessions, so I think the pacing is good despite the lack of concrete or measurable progress in the form of experience points, and I've certainly been having fun running it. Okay, to wrap up this post, here's some interesting content that I've consumed this week. Number 1, the Tabletop Miniature Hobby Podcast. This is where I found out about Hobgoblin, but I've been listening to the odd episode whilst I've been painting minis. Some lighthearted and interesting discussions on hobby wargaming. 2, Halberds and Helmets. One of the first podcasts I started listening to. It had been a year between episodes, but Alex has put out 2 new episodes talking about his homebrew system again, of the same name. Alex also has a bunch of great OSR resources at campaignwiki.org, so check that out as well. And then Coldlight Press. Not exactly content, but the second iteration of the Adventure Site contest is closing soon, January 1st. If writing a short adventure site and having it critiqued sounds interesting, check it out. I'm working on something. Whether I'll find the time or courage to submit it is yet to be seen. And that's it, folks. Thank you so much for listening. If you have feedback, send me an email at diegeticadvancement@gmail.com or send me a voice message on SpeakPipe. I'm also on Discord in a few places, so if you find me, feel free to send me a message there. Bye for now.